Okay, here I am again, ASAC, back with another video. Today is going to be a video on how to fly airliners. This is aimed at the people who are coming from GA or light aircraft and want to get into flying jets. So for this video I have chosen the A320. This is the fly-by-wire version. It is completely free to download. So I don't know why you wouldn't get it, because it is much better than the default. A lot more things work on it, and I've chosen Airbus because they are easy to learn relatively compared to Embraer or Boeing. But I'm going to start by going over some of the programs I use to give myself more of an immersive experience. Because things I wish someone would have told me about when I started using Microsoft Flight Simulator. So first of all, we've got GSX Pro. Now GSX is the reason I have stairs going up to the aircraft, and there's a bloke stood at the top of the stairs, as you can see. We've got all these features that are in the menu on the right hand side. When I click request boarding, there will be 2 passenger buses come up to the aircraft. I can request to board the pilots and the crew as well. So you will see them walking from the buses up the stairs and into the aircraft. If the aircraft was parked at a gate with a jetway, then you would also see the jetway connected to the aircraft, and it would be a glass jetway, so you'd see the people walking through it. But the main reason I got GSX was for the pushback feature, because it's much easier to use than the default, and the actions around the aircraft are more realistic. So that's GSX Pro, which is payware. And next I have, next I've got PACX. This is another passenger add-on, but this is for announcements and sounds. So once I activate this, we'll hear the boarding music, the safety briefings, the cabin announcements, and stuff that you would expect to find on a normal aircraft. The reason I use this one compared to the others is the fact that you can download videos off YouTube, convert them to a WAV file, and use them for the cabin boarding music and safety briefing. So you have the realistic announcement for the airline that you're flying. That also is payware, but well worth the money. Then I've got Sim Toolkit Pro. Now this is probably a must, I would say. It's absolutely free to download, but it gives you all the information you need in one place. So if I go to Flight Tools, I can type in the airports of interest, and it will give me all the information for that airport that I need. So today we'll be flying to Schiphol in Amsterdam. That will be all the information here. Gives us the weather here. There's the METAR version, and if you can't read that, it's decoded below. And this will also give us all the information for the flight plan later once we've got that. And it will give us a moving map as well. One feature about this I really do like is the fact that if you're away from your computer, you can follow it online. So you can use your phone or tablet and log on to the website of SimBrief. No, it's a different website, Sim Toolkit Pro, and then and then you can see your flight, where it is and how it's doing. So those are programs that I'm using today. I'm not going to be using any ATC because I appreciate that a lot of people don't have or use any ATC for their flight. So we have loaded up the A320 at the gate at East Midlands Airport, gate 12 right, and we are going to fly from East Midlands to Amsterdam Schipol Airport. So first thing we want to do, jump in the aircraft. Now this is all cold and dark, so if you have a look at the instruments and everything, it's all switched off. This is cold and dark. This is how most people start. Personally I don't. I start in a turnaround mode, because realistically if you are starting work as a pilot, you'll probably be taking over from another crew, so they will have left a lot of the electrics on, such as heating, lights, external lights and certain things like that. But for the purposes of the video, I will start cold and dark. So first thing we're going to need is power. So if we stick battery 1 and battery 2 on, there you go. To start with, it doesn't look like it's done much, but you will see these red fault lights come up, which isn't a problem, it's just because the engines aren't running. So we have batteries on, but the batteries will die quickly if we don't sort ourselves some more permanent power. So if we go over to the window, we've got this lovely tablet in the window. If we click on that, this is the electronic flight bag, the EFB, found in most aircraft these days. And we want to go to ground, and then we want to connect the ground power unit. Ground power unit is basically some sort of plug-in, either a generator or some kind of fixed ground plug-in that will allow you to connect to a more permanent source of power, and then your batteries aren't going to die on you. So we've connected that, and we need to select the external power button. Just click on that, hear that click, and everything comes to life. So first things we want to do is stick the window heat on, stick some navigation lights on, and we can put the cabin signs on and switch the emergency lighting to armed. There we go. So we're pretty much set up here. We'll just look at the white lights. All these are saying off. That's fine because they are fuel pumps. We don't need them yet. Got this that says off, which is the cabin, the crew air supply. We'll switch that on. That is the emergency air masks if we do have a problem. That ensures that the airflow is on to the cockpit if we need it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch all the panel lighting up just to make things easier to see. So there's one on the overhead panel, there are 3 just below the throttles. Okay. Then there are 2 more at the top of this screen, which you'll find here. One, 2, and then lastly we want to turn the brightness of the screens up. So you'll find those next to the screens. There's that one turned up. That one turned up. And then we can go to the other side and same again. Okay, so we've got all the screens lit up, we've got the cockpit lit up, and we've got all this stuff switched on, ready to go. So next we have the screens here. People often ask, why are my screens like this? You know, I can't fly like this. Well, no, you can't. So what we're going to do is go to the overhead panel, switch all these to nav. All 3 of these need to be switched to nav. These are the IRS switches. And then we can go down to the McDo. This is the flight computer. Excuse me. On the Airbuses they are called the FMC. Sorry, on the Boeings they're called FMC. On the Airbuses they are McDo, the MCDU. So what we want to do is click the top one. That's the system we're using. Gives us the general information about the McDo itself. So we need to start with init for initial or initialization. Now I've got a few empty boxes here, so with co-route, I don't really use that very often. You can save flight plans, so you can just type it in there as what it's saved as, and then it will load the flight plan, but I like to start with a fresh plan every time. So we're going to start with from and to. You've got the 4 letters / 4 letters. So we are going EGNX, and then we're going to EHAM for Schipol. So we'll just click the button next to it to drop it in the boxes, and it will bring us up to this page. We can click return, and then we want a flight number. Well, we're EasyJet, so easy, we'll make something up, 5563, or just go 563. Alright, flight number, you don't always have to have it, but some aircraft won't work properly if you don't put a flight number in. Okay, and now we've filled in the basic stuff, we can get ourselves a flight plan. To do that, we go to simbrief.com. Simbrief itself is completely free, however, Navigraph is not free. You don't have to have Navigraph, but it does make things a lot easier. You have 2 choices of subscription. There is navigation data only, or nav data and charts. Personally, I don't use the charts, but the navigation data I feel is very important, because you, if you don't update the nav data, you do get errors when you're trying to put it into the McDo or FMC, because navigation data is updated both in real life and in the sim every month, and it's basically some of the waypoints are added, removed, changed, whatever. But if you don't change that in the sim, then the when you try to enter something that doesn't exist anymore, or something that's new, then the computer won't recognize it, so it just makes things easier to keep everything up to date. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to dispatch, and I'm going to start a new flight from here. And then we're going to go and type everything in when this map has loaded on the right. Okay, so the time now, yeah, this happens, don't worry about it, doesn't really mean anything. Time now is 12:47. We're going to aim for a 13:30 departure. So what I will do is that I'll set that first. Just wait for it to wake up. Okay, so I've set the time for departure for 13:30. I think it's fairly important to set the time. Some people don't, but it plans the flight around what's going on. So if you set the accurate time for pushback, it will give you the weather for that time and not for the time now. Being as we're not leaving for about 40 minutes, the weather could change between now and then. So we are EasyJet 563, was it? And then we're departing EGNX. No, EGNX, and we're going to EHAM. Right, that's done. I have created my own airframe for SimBrief. You can do that by clicking here on Airframe Editor, and it will ask you a load of questions. You just fill in the details and it will create an airframe. Or if you don't want to do that, there's a load of pre-done ones here, but I will choose one that I've created for the A320. Now if you look at the top row, it has filled in your alternate airport, EHEH, so I'm going to put that into SimToolkit Pro as one of my saved things, just in case we need the information for that. But anyway, so we can go back to SimBrief. We've got the top line filled in, the second line filled in, everything else pretty much fills itself out. Just got to make sure the route is green and valid, and now that that's okay, we can click generate flight. Again, this takes a while to generate, and then we've got to wait for the map to load on the right hand side. On the next page we don't really need to memorize anything apart from the cruise altitude, because we are going to put all this information into SimToolkit Pro, which is easily done. A couple of clicks and it's done. You don't have to fill everything in, and that's one of the reasons I like SimToolkit Pro so much. So here we have the flight plan. We're still waiting for the map to load on the right hand side, but we can see our altitude will be 35,000 feet. Easy enough to remember. So we've got the map there, we're just waiting for the land to show up. There we go, we've got the land. So we're taking off from East Midlands. I'm going to fly south over to the east and then straight into Schipol Airport. 35,000 feet we need to remember, so I can close this now. And this is SimToolkit Pro, so I can click plan a flight, load last SimBrief plan. This should bring up our information with a map of the route. So A320 GBMTT, that is, I've got that saved because that's for my virtual airline that I fly for. So basically it's got all our information here. Click fly now, and then it should bring up another map with some weather cells if there are any of interest. There you go, not much going on around, so that's fine. These are the important bits to remember. TOC, top of climb, and TOD, top of descent. So basically, once we've set up and start flying, we don't really need to pay much attention to this until we are nearing top of descent. Once we get there, that's when we begin our descent into Schipol. Now, the one thing I love about this is if you click up here, you have everything you need. You can click on flight log, that gives you all your waypoints. You can click on NOTAMs, it gives you any information that is relevant to your flight. You can click on winds, it gives you all the winds. Click on routing, it gives you your route. And OFP is general information to do with the flight. So now we have all that done, we can put in the rest of the information on this page. Cruise flight level we know is 35,000 feet, so we press 350. Flight level is found by dropping the last two zeros. We don't have to fill in the temp because it does it for us. So there we go, we've got that. We want the cost index next. So if we go to SimToolkit Pro, cost index is here of 46. So we'll go back there, we type in 46, and there we go, that's filled in for us. Okay, now is as good a time as any to put some fuel and passengers, fuel and payload on board. So if we go over to the tablet, click on fuel, this is where we put the fuel in. So if we go over to SimToolkit Pro, we click on summary on fuel, 4773, that's our block fuel. So if we go to the tablet, we can excuse me, click on here, and instead of having to mess about with sliders, we can type 4773 and then we click that, and there we go, we've got the appropriate fuel on board. Next it's payload, so we're looking at the zero fuel weight, and if we go over to here, we'll go over to weights. Zero fuel weight 55.9, so that's 55,900. So we can go over here, zero fuel weight, and then it's 55,900, and then we can load that. So that's our weight and fuel on board. Okay, now we can go back over to the McDo because we need to fill in some more information. Now if you look up here, there's 2 arrows, which means there's more than one page. So if we click the next arrow, it's asking for some more information. So ZFW, ZFWCG, that is zero fuel weight and the zero fuel weight center of gravity. It needs the numbers for both of those. So back over to the thing, zero fuel weight 55.9, and then the C of G, there we go, 32.81. so we'll call that 32.8. 55.9, 32.8. so 55.9 / 32.8. and we drop that in there. That works. And then it wants our block fuel number, which I can't remember what it was. We'll either go to the tablet or find it this way. 4773, so 4.8 we'll call that. 4.8. and this is just basically to allow the computer to work out speeds and that for the amount of weight we have on board. So we can click to the next page. That takes us back to the first page, so we know we're done with that. Okay, watching the time, it's 12:56 here, so I'm going to start boarding half an hour before departure, just to give plenty of time for everyone to get on board. I'm not going to make you sit and wait. I will pause the video until everything's ready to go and we're on for the next stage, but at the minute we're not ready yet. So if we go over to the flight plan page, we need to set up our flight plan. So Sim Toolkit Pro, click on routing. There is our flight plan. Now it looks a bit scary, but you don't have to worry. This is a typical IFR flight plan. Most airline flights are flown IFR, which means instrument flight rules. You cannot fly using maps and visual aids outside the aircraft. It's all done by instruments and navigation points. So the information to break it down is basically airport, runway, SID, flight plan, star, airport, runway. So let's try that again. We've got airport, East Midlands Airport, runway 27 for departure. We've got DTY 3N. This is a SID, a standard instrument departure. I'm sure most of you have heard of SIDs and stars before, but it actually means the SID is the basically the route out of East Midlands. A SID or a star is always letters, a number, and then a letter. And there's the star, same again, letters, number, and a letter. You can see at the end we have the star of red for 1 alpha, the airport of Schipol Airport, and we're landing on 36 right. Now that this plan has taken into account the weather as it is when we depart and as it will be when we arrive. In between that you've got waypoints, which are DTY, Banto, Sivda and Redfer. Those are waypoints, and then in between those they are airways. So airways are basically a collection of waypoints but put together so you don't have to type in every waypoint that you're going to. So waypoints are letters mainly, and airways are a letter or 2 letters followed by numbers. So that's how you decipher the route. So basically we're starting East Midlands runway 27 DTY 3N. So we go in, we click on East Midlands Airport, departure, we want to depart runway 27, and we want the DTY 3N departure. If we click on that, it pops up here, and then we can click insert there. It will bring up a load of waypoints that we haven't put in, but that is a good thing. So if you have a look here, DTY is there. That should be our next waypoint, which as you can see it is. Next we need to enter the airway of P166. Go back to the McDo, we click on the last waypoint, click on airways, and then we want P166 and we can drop it in there. Then it will ask us if we want to put in a waypoint or another airway. If we have a look at the route, there is a waypoint, but there is a airway after that, so we can skip the waypoint and put the next airway in, P155. So if we just put P155 in and click on the left hand side for the airways, then it should fill in our waypoint for us, which is Banto, which is the correct one. So next we can put P137, which should be the next airway. Okay, it's now 2 o'clock, sorry, 1 o'clock Zulu time, and we're going to start the boarding procedure. I click start flight here. Yes, I'm going to create the new flight plan. We're going to have 30 minutes boarding time. Yes, that's fine. Hang on, that's Wi-Fi and in-flight entertainment. Play boarding music. I want Easyjet, which I have pre-saved. Do. Okay. Easyjet, there we go. Okay, start. Excuse me. And then I'm going to request boarding.
Boarding requested. Do you want to board crew?
And I'm just going to board the passengers this time. So, anyway, we've put P137 in. And then next we don't have any more airways, so we have to put in the following waypoint, which is Redfer. So if we type in Redfer, and then we remember that waypoints always go in on the right. So that's all in. We can click insert now because the next one is our star. If we have a look on the flight plan, we've done Redfer, then we've got the star and the airport. So we want to go to, can go the other way now. We want to go to EHAM and arrival. Let's have a look. We are arriving 36 right. Redfer 1 Alpha arrival. 36 right. So we can scroll and see what kind of approaches we have. We have no ILS available for runway 36 right. So I'm going to choose that one because I like ILSs better than anything else. And then it's the Redfer 1 Alpha. We need to scroll through until we can see Redfer. There we go. That's it there. Again, you click on that, that should pop up here, and then we can press insert. So that is the whole flight plan put in. And we can go through, we need to scroll through the whole flight plan and make sure there is nothing in white that says discontinuity. If there is, we need to remove that. There is one there, so we'll click clear until clear shows up here, and then we can press the button next to it, and then it will disappear. Then we want to keep scrolling and make sure there are no more. So that's the whole flight plan done. I'm going to scroll through again just in case I missed anything. There we go, that's the whole flight plan done. So next we need to go to the performance page. Now we don't need to worry about anything because we are connected to the ground power. We have battery for as long as we need it. The passengers are boarding and we've still got 25 minutes or 27 minutes for departure. Loads of time. So this is the performance page. It's basically asking for flaps and trim setting, outside air temperature and the transition altitude. So to start with the first one, flaps, we're going to take off with a flaps 1 and then / the trim setting. I can't find a way to find it on the fly-by-wire, so I always put 0.1 up 0.1 and then click in there. You'll see that turn in there. Flex to temp. If we have a look here, flight tools, East Midlands Airport, temperature is 20 degrees today. So if we just type in 20, drop that in, and then transition altitude again. There we go, it's at the top of the East Midlands Airport information, so 6,000 feet. So this will tell us when we need to change from QNH to standard pressure. The QNH here will start flashing when you need to change that over. But anyway, now we've got all the information put in there, we can click next to these empty boxes. Once you click it, a number will pop up, then you click it again and it will go into the box. VR is one to remember, that's 128 knots. So that page is now done. I'll just look outside to show you GSX. In fact, I'll show you in a minute because we're in between buses. So that page is done. Now you can see there is a next phase, so we'll click that. That's climb. No, that's fine. We can't do any of these because we're not in that phase of flight yet. So that is it. The whole McDo is set up. You can click progress. That will show you what's going on as you're doing it. And then we go up to here. I'm going to change this over to millibars because that's how I prefer it. If we press B, that will change the QNH to the current air pressure, and then we can set 35,000 on the autopilot. So we've got that set. We want to make sure there are 3 dots: speed, heading, altitude. That means the VNav or vertical navigation is selected. That means LNav or lateral navigation is selected, and that means that's going to hold the speed together with the vertical navigation. It will keep it below 250 knots until 10,000 feet, and then it will gradually increase to cruising speed. So apart from that, everything is set up. We've got our passengers boarding now. We've got 24 minutes till pushback, so I'm going to pause the video now and I will come back to you when we have more to do. So see you on the other side. Okay, so we've got about 5 minutes to departure. So we're going to jump in the aircraft now. Now we cannot push back with ground power connected because it is connected by a cable, so we don't want to be pushing back with a cable attached. So what we need to do is start the APU. Now the APU is the auxiliary power unit. It's basically a small jet engine in the tail section of the aircraft. It has a creates electrical power for the aircraft systems. So what we need to do is start the APU. To do that, we need fuel going to the APU. So if we look up here at the fuel pumps,
good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen,
APU
and welcome
there.
aboard Flight 5.
We'll switch that fuel pump on.
Service to Amsterdam. Our flight time will be roughly 53 minutes.
So
now that the cabin
what
door
we
is
want
closed,
to do,
please make sure that all devices
click the
are
APU
in
master
airplane mode
switch,
and your large devices are now
then we'll
shut
click
down
start
and
down
secure.
here when that's ready.
Please fasten your seatbelt
Just
and
gotta
make sure
leave
that
it
all
a
tray
couple of
tables
minutes.
and seat backs are in a full
Just let
upright
it
and
do
locked
its thing.
position for departure. Cabin crew, prepare cabin for departure.
If you click start too early, it won't actually do anything because it's still setting up, if you like. So click start. It says on in blue. Once it's ready, again it has to set itself up. Once it's ready and started, that will switch to green light. It says avail, and then we can switch the APU bleed on. We need that bleed on to start the engines because that allows air in for the engines to allow them to start. So at the minute we've got all the passengers on board and we are literally ready to go once that APU has started, and we've still got 3 minutes to departure, so it looks like we're going to have an on-time pushback. Lovely. There we go, we've got available on the APU. We can switch the APU bleed on, There we go, we can see now the PAX warning lights have gone off. And we can go over to the tablet. We need to go to services here, and then we can disconnect the ground power unit. Go back to the top, switch it off there. Hear that click, that means everything has switched over to the APU power. So again, we have power for as long as we need it, and everything is fine. So we've got just over 2 minutes for pushback, but everyone is on board, we are ready, APU is powered up, so we can call for pushback a little bit early. So where are we? Prepare for pushback and departure. There we go. So there's the aircraft, doors are shut, stairs are away, and we're just waiting for the pushback crew to do their thing. Now these animations are all down to GSX, so
Hello Captain, we are ready for pushback.
if you're on the default equipment, it's not going to look like this. So once the pushback tug is connected to the nose gear, we can switch on the beacon light just to let people know we are about to move and start the engines.
Departure checks completed. Bypass pin inserted.
Now usually you'll start the engines during pushback, you won't start at the gate, although there are some circumstances where you might start at the gate, or if you have icing around you may be asked to start the engines after you have pushed back away from the gate, just so you don't get any like bits of ice that might be in the engine flying out the back and hitting someone or something. So now we've got the tug connected, we can go up to the top, we will switch the beacon on, and then we are all ready for pushback, just waiting for the instruction. It will ask me where I want it, which I'm going to put here. There we go, quick edit pushback. Now I have forgotten where we need to be taking off from. We go to flight summary. That brings this page up again. I'm looking for routing, so if I click there, go to routing, we are 27, so that means I want to push back nose left. Now if you don't know where you're going, you can press V for Victor, that will bring up the VFR map, which will show you the airport, and you'll be able to see which way you need to be pointing to taxi out to the active runway. So I am just adjusting where my aircraft is going at the minute. I need to be facing that way. In fact, you can see where that 747 has landed. Not completely realistic because we don't generally get 747s at this airport. You might if it's a cargo flight. During the day you don't normally have 747s from East Midlands. So I'm going to push back. About there. Once I've selected that, it's going to ask me to release the parking brakes.
Release parking brakes, please.
There we go, pushing back.
Commencing push. All
1 minute
engines clear.
late.
Start at will.
So, we can get rid of that. Once the aircraft starts pushing back, you can go inside to start the engines. Now, obviously, to start the engines, we're going to need fuel. So we'll make sure all these fuel pumps are switched on. And then we'll go down to the bottom, flip this over to ignition start. That will bring up this menu on here.
Your attention to the screen for
And
an
we can hit
important safety
engine 1.
demonstration. Thank you for flying with us.
Please pay attention to illuminated signs and crew instructions, including the following safety procedures.
You can hear the PTUs
The
firing up.
safety card found in your seat pocket contains important
And once
information.
this one
like
goes
exit
green, we
routes,
can hit engine 2.
oxygen masks, life jackets, and the brace position that you
Airbuses
must
generally
adopt
start
if you hear
from
brace,
left to right.
brace.
Boeings you
There
start
are
from right
8
to left.
emergency exits on this aircraft. The cabin crew are now pointing out the exits nearest to you. Please be aware that your nearest usable exit may be behind you.
Okay, so that has come up green, so at this point I will start engine 2. Probably supposed to leave it a little bit longer, but
Adjusted and
I'll
released
start it so
as
that
shown.
we can get going fairly quickly.
When the seatbelt signs are on, we recommend that you keep it fastened at all times. If the air supply fails, masks will drop from above you.
Please set parking brakes.
Pull a mask towards you to start the oxygen.
We'll set the parking brake, as they've asked us to do.
Breathe normally.
And now it's just waiting for us to tell them that the engines have started okay.
Pull on each side to adjust.
So I'm going to wait for that to go
Put on
green,
your
and then
own mask before helping
there we go.
others.
I will just
If we
tell
land
them
on water, take
started
a life
alright.
jacket from under your seat. Remove from the pouch and
Cockpit to
over
ground.
your head.
We have a good engine start.
Pass the
You can
tapes
disconnect.
around your waist and clip
There we
it
go.
together.
So we've got
Pull the strap to
engines are
adjust.
started. They're doing their things on the outside of the aircraft.
When outside,
Once
inflate it
everyone's
by
clear
pulling
of the
toggle.
aircraft, we can stick
If it
the
fails to
taxi
inflate
lights
or
on.
needs topping up, blow into this tube. There is a light and whistle for attracting attention. The cabin crew can assist you with life jackets for children. Your tray table must now be stowed, armrests down, window blinds open, and seatbelt fastened. Further information regarding your safety on board can be found in the in-flight magazine. We hope you have a great flight.
Okay, so the tug is driving away.
Bypass pin removed.
And then once this person walks away from the front, we can switch the lights on.
Right is clear.
We really don't want to blind them with our taxi lights. Okay, they're walking away now, so we can go to the overhead panel. We want to switch the nose light on to taxi, and then we can put the runway turn-off lights on. The runway turn-off lights are basically the same as normal taxi lights, but they were facing sideways, so you can see left and right of the cockpit, particularly useful at night time. So now we're just waiting for the all clear to begin our taxi. Now this is easy for me because I know the airport, I know which way I need to go. If you can't, if you don't know the airport, which way to go, you can bring up that VFR map, as I said, and zoom in. It'll show you the taxiways, or you can use Sim Toolkit Pro. You get rid of that, then you can go to the airport, zoom right in, and you can see it that way. But we are ready to go. We're taxiing now, and as we begin to move, we can put that one stage of flap that we need in. So that's lowering as we're taxiing. You can just see it there on the wing, and then it's simply taxiing all the way down to the beginning of runway 27. Now it's important to remember that the heavier airliners will taxi quite differently to your general aviation or light aircraft. If you're going too fast, you can turn and nothing will happen because you're just skidding
Cabin is
along
ready
the
for takeoff.
front wheel. It's also to remember that Airbuses, the nose wheel turns quite slowly, so you need to get those inputs in pretty early and allow for the extra time. Now in airliners, the rudder and the steering nose wheel are separate from each other. Now you do have rudder pedals for the rudder as normal, but you have also here a tiller which is just for the nose wheel, so you are basically steering with a small steering wheel, and it's just handy to remember. You can buy a tiller for Microsoft Flight Simulator if you want to set a realistic sim pit, as I call them, but I haven't found one for a reasonable price. They are quite expensive. So I have linked it so that my rudder pedals are operating the tiller and the rudder at the same time. So on takeoff, you'll see that in this window here, there's nothing lit up at the minute, but during takeoff you will see that it says man toga, which basically means you are using the throttles manually, and it's in takeoff go around power, which is full power. Once we have taken off, we need to pull the throttles back until it says climb, and the throttles will stay there for the whole flight until we're ready to move them to idle just before touchdown. But we'll go over that in part 2 when I do the arrival, approach and shutdown. Okay, so I'm going to stop at that second hold up there before we taxi out onto the runway. So here we go, we're taxiing to the hold, we'll stop there. So we need to set some things up now. We can turn that on to normal, that's the engine ignitions. The transponder, which is here, we can switch that to TARA, and then we can switch this one to on. And then over here you need to set these as well. That has to go to auto, 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 and then this can go to system 1. So now that's all set up, we can look in the middle, we've got all these interesting things here, and that's fine. So what we need to do now, we can turn the APU off, we can turn the bleed off. I'm going to stick some anti-icing on, just in case. I haven't really checked if I need it, but always better to have it on and not need it. So next we can arm the spoilers, and you do that by lifting this up. Don't know if you saw that, we'll do it again. Watch it, there you go, it goes up, so the spoilers are armed in case we do need to abandon the takeoff. Then we can stick the strobe lights on, these are the flashing lights on the wingtips, and you can stick the landing lights to on, and then the nose light to take off. So all the lights are on, we're all set up for the takeoff. We can taxi out onto the runway now. Some people like to turn the taxi lights off at this point, but I always think that the more lights you have on, then the safer you are, the easier it is for people to see you. So taxi out onto the runway, and then when we line up, I'm going to apply full power, and then you'll see that the auto throttle here lights up, means that the auto throttle is armed, and then when we're established in a climb, put the gear up and stick autopilot 1 on. So I'm going to now apply full power, see Mantoga there, release the brakes, and then we are looking for a blue line on the airspeed indicator, and that's when we need to begin our rotation. I like to apply a little bit of forward pressure just to assert some dominance on that nose gear so it's not bouncing around and we have authority over the steering. So we've hit that blue line, so we can begin to pull back. Sorry about the FPS. There we go, I'm going a bit off the runway, but there we go. So I can put the gear up now, we can hit autopilot 1. Bit wavy, I don't know what's going on here. And I pull the power back until that says climb. So we're on autopilot, it's in the climb. We have, I don't know why it's shaking like this, can only assume it's bad wind. Right, well the aircraft is following the course that it needs. I can only assume we're in some bad turbulence. Once the aircraft gets above 200 knots, where that orange mark is, we can then put the flaps up. There you go, flaps going up. And you can see here it's flashing a lever climb, so just want to move the throttles so that it doesn't say that. In this case I had to push the throttles forward a little bit, but now we have established in a comfortable climb. The shaking has stopped, which I can only put down to wind. We are on a comfortable climb, staying below 250 knots. That's done by the autopilot anyway. We have to watch the altitude, because once I get to 6,000 feet, which is our transition altitude, then I need to put the altitude onto standard pressure. There we are, 6,000 feet. That starts flashing at you. You go here and pull it out, that flips to standard pressure, and there we are. We are established in the cruise, the climb, and that is pretty much everything. You are now able to leave the autopilot to do everything for you until you get to the top of descent, which I will show you in part 2. And so the next thing we need to do is at 10,000 feet, where we have some more checks to do. Now, it's important to remember that if there are any sort of height restrictions at on the way out of the departure, it will hold them for you. So as you can see now, it's leveling off at 9,000 feet, which means there's a restriction and I cannot go above that until I've passed a certain waypoint. But once I've passed that, the autopilot will continue to climb on its own. So I will pause the video now and then come back to you at 10,000 feet for our checklist. Okay, so we've now passed that waypoint. The height restriction has been lifted and we are now climbing up to 35,000 feet. So now passing 9,500, you can start to look at the checklist. Have a look on here, see what's going on. We've got the anti-ices on, ice not detected, so we can switch them off.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now passed 2,000 feet. You may turn on larger portable electronic devices.
And now we can switch the landing lights off, turn off lights off, and nose lights can go off. No turbulence, so we can switch the seatbelt signs off. We'll look down here again. See, we've still got the spoilers armed. We can push that back in so they are not armed, and that is basically it. We are now on our way to Schipol, so the autopilot will handle everything for us and we don't have to touch it until the top of descent. So I will stop this video here and I'll see you again in part 2 for the approach, arrival and shutdown. Thanks for watching.